Hello, everybody. Today, we are doing another replay analysis. You might notice I'm wearing the same shirt I was wearing in the other replay analysis with Spectre's replay. But it's not because I'm wearing the same shirt on 2 different days, back to back, and I didn't do the laundry. It's because it's the same day. And I'm still doing another replay analysis on the same day, okay? Promise. I don't stink. But Spectre, I mean not Spectre, Sapien. Spectre, shout out to you as well, but Sapien, thank you again for buying another one. This time around, guys, if you we have another ZvT for Sapien here, our Zerg player. I do not know what exactly this replay is about. We're about to find out. But we're gonna, yeah, this is a replay analysis. We're gonna jump right into it. If you don't know how these work, it's basically, long story short, I help the person I'm observing just get better at StarCraft in a very in-depth way. And also, Spyfuser, thank you very much for the 12-month sub, man. Welcome to the Blue V Club. My God, bro, you're looking great. Thank you, dude. All right, Sapien, thumbs up, dude. I saw that drone go to that patch. Don't think I didn't see that. I saw that. Right now, you have all 4 close patches saturated properly. You are getting maximum gains right now. This is the maximum gain you could possibly get, and you even rotated that drone. That drone also is now on the proper patch. It didn't rotate to a 3-1 and just sit on it, or it didn't bounce its ass around a lot. You are crushing this mineral line right now, and I'm proud of you. If I had to critique anything, this is probably the most minor critique I've ever had of your. I've told you this before, but this is probably, out of all the replays I've watched you do, this is the most minor critique I've had for you. I would say 17 hatch instead of 16 against Terran specifically, because no Terran is really going to block your natural. The amount of Terrans that block your natural is like 1%. And the only reason why is because it doesn't really change anything about your build that much, but you actually get your mineral line at 16 and a 16 a little bit faster. It's the only reason. And you would just have that efficient mining just for a tiny bit, like a tad bit longer, but it's the difference of seriously probably like 4 minerals. About 4 minerals. Because you're not larva capping either way, so it's fine. You're not like delaying your future drones. So it's whatever. It's really not a big deal. You're doing great though. For the drone patch rotations here, I give you an A. You get a 95%. A solid A. I don't give you 100 because of it's not 17, but and you missed a tiny bit of time, but it's near perfect. So good job. All right, moving on. You have a drone going to your this drone, I would assume, is probably going to go to your 3rd base. Because I know you like to take a fast 3rd. I'm pretty sure you do. Well, I don't know, we'll see. Doesn't matter. Alright, so you have your Lings in production right now. We're going to pause it right now. And we're just going to take a quick look at what we're seeing right now, right? So your main, great job. Your drones should be getting ripped off here in a second if you're not going to be going. I don't know if you go for Overlord speed still, but we'll see, I guess. Your natural looks fine. You got your Lings coming, you got your Queens coming. Everything is well timed. I would say if your plan is to take a 3rd base, I would love it if you move your drone really soon to your 3rd, because the Reaper's not there yet. But the second this Reaper starts going across the map, actually, you know what? If you actually see this, and he's just sitting there because there's no reason why his Reaper should be sitting there, because he scouted a long time ago. You expanded. The second you're a Terran player who sees an expansion, there's no need to be like, Lings are coming. I don't want to lose my natural. Lings are coming. There's no reason he should be worried about that. So, this Reaper should be moving to your base, but the only reason why you ever move your drone to your 3rd before the 3rd is ready to go is because the Reaper is moving to your base. Is the only reason why that's logical and why that makes sense. It doesn't make any sense to move your drone to your 3rd early before you can afford it if the Reaper sits there, because now he's not gonna kill your drone. As long as you pay attention to that, I am totally approved of. I approve of your drone sitting here if you're gonna take a third. But the second he leaves, you need to immediately leave as well and go to your third, because if he blocks your ass, that's when it becomes inefficient, right? That's when it sucks. So we'll, you know, it's again, this is something that's not the biggest of deals unless we see what happens, but yeah. Overall, you're playing a good game. This is this is quality. And now you're moving your drone. He just moved the Reaper. I want to watch your timing of when you do that. Reaper just moved. And your drone just moved. Yeah, good shit, dude. You're doing this perfect. That is a perfect time to do it. If you see that Reaper, that is perfect. The only thing that's questionable, though, is his SCV actually came from here and went up this way, so you might actually get blocked by an SCV now. Okay, no, you didn't. You're fine. Yeah, good shit, dude. You're... Okay, Sapien. You may or may not have done what I'm talking about, intentionally or not, but I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt, and I'm going to say you did that like a fucking boss. Okay? That was really well done in terms of your economy control and your economy management. That was very efficient. That all made sense in how it was efficient. That's good shit. You also ripped 2 drones off gas and started zergling speed. Yeah, dude, I'm loving your build right now. Okay, now you scouted a that's a factory, right? I didn't click it myself. Okay, it's a factory with a reactor, and you can now assume it's going to be Hellions. You have a third going down before the Reaper got there. It's perfect timing.
Birth successful.
Minor detail here. I would say the closer the queen is to being done, the less you should risk your lings from attacking the Reaper. The chances of you killing this Reaper are like less than 10%. It's really low. Because the Reaper is already still high hit points, you have an extremely low chance of killing the Reaper, and I would say more often than not, what's actually going to happen in situations like this, if you chase the Reaper off creep, is you're going to lose your lings, and the Reaper's still going to stay alive, and you really don't want to lose your lings because every single time you lose your lings, you should actually sacrifice one of your future larvae to rebuild those lings, because the goal you want to go for, especially if you're fighting against someone who goes Hellions, is as soon as he gets... As soon as your ling speed is like right around like 70... Or not 70. Like 60, 65... Somewhere between 60 to 65 seconds. Which would be right around like here. It'd look like 80% of the way done or something. It would look like 2/3 to... Or sorry, like 3/4 of the way done. Roughly. You get what I'm saying? Like 60, 65 seconds when the bar is almost full. You're going to want to make lings up to like 12. So if you have 4 lings still alive, you can make literally 4 larvae of lings and you're good to go. But if you lose, let's say 2 or all 4 of your lings, now you got to make 5 or 6 larvae of lings, which is like another couple drones that you're missing out on. So I would say, if I to say this, how to do it perfectly.
Swarm forces under attack.
Right now you can see your queen's almost done because the Reaper was delayed. I would say the best thing you could do, honestly, is run away.
ViBE, I put a replay in of my recent colonoscopy. My doctor said could get a second opinion, and after our last discussion about your extracurricular activities and your self-given nickname of the plumber, I figured you'd be a good choice. Thanks.
Yeah, Gecko, you, all that information is correct. I got you covered, dude. I'll, hit you up in some DMs later. No worries, bro. Gecko, thank you very much for the $100 dono, dude. Much appreciated, man. Plumber out. Alright, yo, Sapien. Okay, so Sapien. This is how I would say you could micro this perfectly, okay? Oh my god. Alright. Let's look.
Swarm forces under attack.
Gecko, thank you so much, man. You're fucking awesome. Alright, Sapien. If you ran your lings around, like, away from the Reaper, And his Reaper chased your Lings. I would say the best way you could micro this would be there's I would say 2 ways this would happen. Both are amazingly good for you. Like it's 0 risk with possible reward. Because of your queen timing and it's almost done, you run your Lings away from him and maybe you run around the hatchery. If his Reaper is really greedy and he's like, I'm gonna start attacking your drones now, your queen spawns and your queen starts smacking him. The Reaper would probably be like right here or like right here. It would be in this area, right? If the Reaper gets really greedy and your Lings now are coming back around to try and kill the Reaper, you might just straight up kill the Reaper. Otherwise, you'll just shove the Reaper away and you won't lose any Lings. Or you could just run your Lings back this way, and then the second they're like right here, and your queen spawns, run right back at the Reaper again. The one thing I would say that you don't want to have happen is you definitely don't want to lose a drone. No Zerg wants to lose a drone. And also, you might also not even want to like lose mining time by having to rotate the drone away to over here. So going around the hatchery might not be the best idea, now that I think about that. Maybe just like run back to your queen's going to be like over here, and then just run right back at the Reaper. You have 0 chance to lose a drone, 0 chance to lose anything. And your queen will, you know, if he's really greedy, he might actually lose the Reaper. He's most likely not going to lose the Reaper, but at least you guarantee you lose nothing. The best way to, and then if this, let's say this queen was like right here because the Reaper came way earlier, never ever chase the Reaper off creep unless the Reaper is literally at like 10 hit points or 5 hit points. And then you can try and do these like cute micro moves where you might be able to kill it if the guy is like over microing his shit, because you can actually run away from him and then immediately run back, and a lot of people's reaction time goes, oh, he's running away, run forward. And the second he runs forward, you're running directly at him again and you just smack him and you kill him. That sometimes happens, but never chase a Reaper off creep if it's not actually about to be 1 or 2 hits from dead. Because all you do then is you just lose your Lings. So, like, right now, that was fine. It's fine. It's fine. The way this Ling pulled back, all your Lings should have pulled back. This is becoming a mistake. Like, it's, again, we're talking about this so much, but I'm just saying, like, nothing even bad happened to you this game, but I feel like in general, in most games, this is something that will just be a little thing that'll give you hiccup, like a hiccup in your build all the time. If you repeatedly do this, because people's Reaper control gets pretty good the higher you go. Just don't chase him off creep. It's a mistake, because you could, like there, you just lost a Ling. It'll always happen, and you do not want to lose your Lings, because it's like effectively you just kind of lost the ability to further protect your drones properly from the first 2 Hellions, and when you finally make your other Lings, so here's the thing too. This is why it's important. You do not want to make another Ling right now, right? You do not want to make another Ling right now, but if this guy wanted to, he could run 2 Hellions now into your base against 3 Lings instead of 4 Lings. Which is, you have 25% less of a chance to block his Hellions up. Or 25% less units to do it. Sorry, that's more what I meant to say. You could still do it, but like there's less shit blocking him, and now he can easier squeeze through your shit and like get to your drones. And also on the same token now, when you actually do want to make your Lings, by the time he has 4 Hellions, you just have one less Ling again. So it's not the biggest deal, but it does change things a little bit. It changes the pace of things. So the last thing you want to do is compromise your drones more than you need to. So just don't get too greedy with killing a Reaper unless it's really looking like you're going to get it. And then that's kind of like a decision you'll make at that point, I guess. But yeah. I don't like watching people run their shit off creep. It seems really bad. Unless the Reaper is like literally just going to die. Good. I'm glad you pulled back there. Like if you would have chased it again, I would have been like, no. Okay. Anyways, moving on.
Has evolved.
Moving on. We got really specific on that, but it is very, very true though. Your Ling timing though is late. Your build is a little too greedy. Like I love your drone count. Okay, that gets me excited. I love it. I love seeing a big drone count. But speaking from a rational point of view, you are being too greedy. Because right now this guy should have 4 Hellions. Wait, oh, what the fuck? He's not even going Hellions. He literally, okay, just kidding. I wasn't paying attention to his base. All right, you're good. Hold on, let me back it up. I thought he was gonna go Hellions. I was talking about the Reapers for too long. Okay, so I want to see when you saw this instead. Okay, I approve of your decisions again.
Swarm forces under attack. Newly birthed queen ready.
Larva is being used pretty well. Yeah, okay, the bunker. This bunker. If I saw this bunker, I agree with you. I would start being a little bit greedier as well. I have no problem with how you're doing it. Dude, you're just playing like a boss, okay? What's happened so far with your one Ling dying? It's very minor in the grand scheme of things. It's just something that, it's just logical. You know, it's like why make a mistake if you don't have to? But it's still, at the end of the day, it is still super minor. But overall, you're playing this game really well, dude. Reading the fact that he's on a bunker now is, and then also if you pay attention to how full the bunker gets, that's also really nice. And I can also teach you a trick too, if you don't. Yeah, I'll show you in a second, or I'll tell you in a sec.
Swarm forces under attack. Newly birthed queen ready.
Okay, here's what I would do now. If I were you, and let's just say you're like, oh, he's got a bunker. This is something that's actually legit. I do this with the Lings as well, because right now, here's why. He built a bunker, right? A bunker is the same cost as 1 Hellion, and he could literally salvage this bunker and get back 75 minerals really fast. He could be like, oh, 75 minerals back in my bank. Cool. I spent 25 minerals to fake a bunker out, to build a bunker. Now, here's the thing. This could be legit because this guy is just worried about a Ling all-in, and he doesn't want to... He's like, all right, if this guy goes for like Lings, at least I have a bunker now that's gonna help me like guard my natural a bit better, and I'm gonna build depots along the side of it and wall my base off. That is possible, and then eventually he'll get rid of it later. That's possibly what he's gonna do. Now, here's another thing that might happen. If I were you, I would actually fly my Overlord, not into it and die, but I would fly my Overlord to the edge of the cliff, like right here. And then I would immediately go back to the high ground. I would let the bunker shoot me one time. Or I would let it shoot me for 1 second. It might shoot me once or twice. And you can tell how much a bunker attacks you. Like how many times it attacks you, because every Marine, no matter where the Marines are in this location on the bunker, the portrait, it's not like only one Marine can attack from an angle. If you're like all the way up here at the corner, like the top left Marine can only attack. Every Marine always attacks if the bunker attacks something. So you multiply the damage by how much damage you take, and you can tell how many Marines are in a bunker. So my point is if you see someone do shit like this, where they have a bunker, and it looks kind of sus, you're like, what? This is a little suspicious. Because I don't see any units. You're not sending anything at me. One way you can confirm if he is making Marines or not making Marines, or if he's hiding shit. A lot of these things tell you a lot of stuff, but you could literally. Or like, you could even do something like say, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to fucking all-in you now. For something like this. If I fly my Overlord forward to the edge of the cliff, and then I fly immediately back, and my Overlord takes damage to go into, it goes 99, and then it goes 93. And then it starts regenerating 94, 95. And I got shot twice. I could be like, he's got 1 Marine in this bunker. That would make me think, honestly. I'd be like, maybe he is going Hellions. Or maybe he's pooling units, and I don't like. Maybe he's going for something weird. He's gonna go for some type of a timing. He's trying to hide his shit. Having another Overlord over here as well would help you confirm even more if you could see something on the other side. But let's just say now, however, so there's like like what I was saying a second ago. If you got shot by like 1 Marine, he already had a Marine earlier. You saw it, but now there's a chance he might still be going factory, right? There's a chance. So the range of his build could still be up in the air. You don't know exactly what it is because you only know 1 Marine's in that bunker. And maybe you want to all in him, maybe you don't. You don't have to, but it's another option. What if this guy's teching really fucking hard? But here's the thing. If this fucking Overlord takes 24 damage, and then you get out of vision again. And now you're like, fuck, dude, this Overlord just went over the cliff for just a split second and went back. And now it's down to like 60 hit points. You could immediately go, all right, he's got four Marines in there. And 4 Marines in there does not have a range of build anymore. There's no more question to be like, does he have a factory or a barracks on that reactor? Because this is kind of weird. It guarantees he has a reactor on the barracks. If he does that. It's something little that can give you a lot of information. Because how the fuck is he going to have Hellions if he's still making Marines off of a reactor? And again, if you had a second Overlord, you could also like have another way to confirm things. But it's a little thing that makes it you know, it could tell you stuff. And somebody who goes for, you know, a full bunker. If this guy was going to go for a full bunker, I would immediately go, all right, well, he's either going for like just 1 bunker of Marines and that's it. And he's going to stop and he's going to go into like mech or something. Or maybe he's actually just going bio. And he's really paranoid about Lingo Lens, but he wants a bunker as well. But he's just going to make more Marines behind it. And this is like a staging point for defense for him. Either way. But it's something little. You don't have to do it. But it's a little thing that could give you information. I think the bigger thing for you that I only have a problem with this game, this is my first problem I have with you, realistically, is you just don't have a second Overlord. If you don't get Overlord speed, I love that you didn't get Overlord speed, but you really should have a second Overlord over here. Because right now you're going to the realm where you're going to start playing blind. So every little piece of information helps you not to be blind. But it's, you know, it's nice to know what the fuck you're fighting against if you play reactionary playstyles. You can send an Overlord behind his natural. Sure. I mean, to be honest, I would rather have this Overlord here than over here. This gives you less information than this does. This gives you move out information. It also gives you composition information. This gives you saturation information. And you can still saturate your base properly while doing many different types of builds. Basically, I would say this. This Overlord placement right here, if we're looking at just the natural, okay? This Overlord placement gives you the ability to see, let's just say if Terran has 50 builds, okay? We're gonna throw a number out there. Let's say Terran has 50 builds. This Overlord right here at the front of the natural has the ability to take 50, which is like all randomness. You don't know what the fuck you're fighting against, down to like fucking 20 or like 15. Like this guy could still do a lot of variations of a lot of builds. But now you know so much more because of what you see in the front. If you have an Overlord in the back, I would say instead of having like 50 is again like let's just say it's the default. Having an Overlord here now would be like instead of 50 builds, this guy could be doing like 40 builds. Because you don't really know what the hell is going on with your Overlord being way the fuck back here. Because if you move the Overlord forward to scout either of the gas, that's a dead Overlord. The Overlord scouting this bottom gas would have to be like right there to see that gas, and that if there's like anything in range to shoot that, it will, unless it's 1 Marine only, it would die. And if there was an Overlord scouting this gas, you would have to, if you did it over on the high, like the low ground down here, let's say you flew this way, if something spots you, you're dead. If you do it on the as close as you can, like right here, that'd be like about where the Overlord needs to be to spot that, again you would die unless it's again like 1 Marine. So both are good scout techniques. I'm not gonna say either one is bad, but I think this one is better because it gives you more information than this one would. Because you guaranteed always get to spot one of his gases. You can also even put the Overlord right there slightly, and you can spot 2 of his patches, and you can see how stacked they are. So you can see density of a mineral line, and you can also see composition of front door. I like this Overlord a lot more. And I also like having an Overlord on the opposite side of the base, because this is where all of his tech goes. Having a third Overlord, you could also have a third Overlord, but that is getting to the point of excessive. Because You have to also assume that a lot of Terran players are going to make a Viking. A lot of especially ones that a lot of Terran players that go for an expansion a lot of times will make a Viking, and the more overlords you have all around his base, the more of them are going to die.
Newly birthed queen ready.
All right, we kind of looked at the Terran build for a second. I'm gonna go back like a little bit and look at yours again. All right, so you're going for you've resaturated your gas. You're going for a layer. You have a fully saturated natural. I love it. You're starting to saturate your third.
Birth successful.
I would love to see if you're going for Bane Nest. This would be the perfect time to make a Bane Nest. Right after you started the layer. And oops, didn't mean to do that. I just hit fast forward. And you're making queens here and there.
Birthed queen ready.
I would say, again, the only problem I've seen so far now is I think you are not making queens well paced enough by just a little bit. It's not the biggest of deals. But I do think you could be fitting a little bit more queens into your build right now. If you're gonna, and you kind of need to if you're gonna be doing a build like this, where you're getting a layer really, really fast, and you're just relying only on some Zerglings. Especially if you're gonna react and be to what he did, really greedy, and be like, oh, he built a bunker. I don't mind that he built a bunker. I like that you're being greedy, but I think you're being maybe too greedy by not building queens. You should. There's still larva is a priority, but I feel like you could have squeezed in like 1 extra queen or 2 extra queens up to this point. I don't like the Evo chamber timing yet. It's not terrible, but I think it's honestly a little bit too early, because what this tells me now, this is what this tells me. Or actually, not. Okay, I really don't like this. I like the Baneling Nest. I think the Baneling Nest is a little bit too late, but this tells me the only way this is going to be, if we're talking about efficiency, right? The only way you're going to use these buildings as fast as you can is if you do not get Baneling speed, and you also do not make any Banes. I do not mind if you don't make any Banes, because I don't think you need Banes right away. I don't think you need Banes right away. But I do think you do need Baneling speed right away. And I don't think you'll be able to get Baneling speed and also double upgrades the second that starts. Not the biggest of deals. Again, these are all really minor things, but I'm just trying to make it like as efficient as we can here when I'm explaining. I would say these Evo chambers are honestly only about 20 seconds too early. That's it. Just 20 seconds too early. Because now, when you make these Evo chambers, I will think there will be a little bit of a hiccup in your build now. Like it doesn't fully make sense to build them as early as you did. You're playing great though, dude. Honestly, I can't really fault you too much right now. Your build is looking fucking solid. Overall, like the grand scheme of the build, because again, you're making the first hiccup. This is honestly like your first real hiccup in the build that I've seen, and you're in your version of the macro build after what you've scouted and what you're doing. And this is your first hiccup when you're already at 53 drones, and you're already on 3 base, pretty much full saturation. This is a very minor hiccup. This is not like catastrophic. It's not like you did this when you're only on like 25 drones or something. Like the more drones you have, the less it matters that you fuck your build up a little bit. So it's not the biggest of deals, but it is still too early. Why early layer? I agree with his early layer. I don't agree with his late Baneling Nest. I think his first 50 gas after making a layer should have been a Bane Nest, and the reason why I agree with it is because what he's scouting looks like bio. He's seen a lot of Marines with his Overlord. He's still here. He's going to see even more, right? But he has spotted a lot of Marines. The guy showed it to him. He sees an engineering bay that could very likely be for upgrades. If he saw a bunker, and let's say he tested it, right, earlier, and he was like, oh, 4 Marines. That's another indicator that goes, oh, you're not making Hellions. Which would further confirm me to be like, all right, you're safe to not make... You are actually safe to not make Lings. But if, let's say, earlier when I was talking about like the Overlord thing, to test the bunker and what's inside of it, because he might not know. let's just say the Overlord takes 6 damage instead of 24. And he's like, oh, there's only 1 Marine in there. I don't necessarily agree with skipping like the extra 8 Lings or so to be extra safe, because now suddenly there still could be Hellions being made, even though he made a bunker. And if you're like, oh fuck, we got Hellions and a medevac or something that dropped into my natural and I have no Lings really to defend that, that would suck ass. And that could happen. That's something that, again, that is in the realm of possibilities if he's not making Marines. You know, it could be a lot of things, but we're talking about, like, you know, figuring out what he's doing with like fucking Sherlock Holmes. We're just like deducing things. But overall, the goal here though, when you know it's bio, we'll go back to that because he knows it's bio now, especially at this point. You want to get a fast Baneling speed. That is currently the meta of ZvT. And the reason why getting a fast Bane speed is important is because a lot of Terran players play ZvT when they go bio based around tank timings with Marines. They go for tank timings on like your 3rd base. That's just standard as fuck. So the better your creep spread is around your bases will it'll like increase the power of your engage. And then also if you actually have Bane speed done before the timing happens, your like defense against that timing like doubles in power, because now suddenly your Banes aren't getting just like popped slow as fuck walking to the Marines that are stimming, but now they're rolling in really fast on creep, and now the bio cannot do nearly as much. They can't cover the tanks as much. The tanks can't cover the bio as much. It makes the melee units for Zerg way more effective. It makes your whole engage way better, because you actually get to realistically slam the Marines with AoE rather than relying on your Lings to kill most of them. Then that also frees up the Lings to now kill the tanks faster. So again, I think that the Bane Nest could have been a lot faster. And you can see the Evos, right? The Evos have been built. I like that you're not upgrading yet on them. But the Evos were made a long time ago, and they're just going to sit here now for probably like 40 seconds before they do anything. I really like that you prioritize that first. And yeah, it's I don't have to keep harping on it. It's just too early. We can clearly see the Evos aren't being used properly. Like this one wasn't even started right away, and it shouldn't have been, because it would have delayed your Bane even more. But yeah, it's just a little inefficient. Should have been started just a little bit later. Otherwise, really good. Your 4th timing is fine. I actually agree with your 4th timing. If your Overlord was sitting here and you spotted a 3rd command center, I would have loved it if you immediately took a 4th base. If you just like, so that would mean it would be like done already. It would be like finishing now. But I like that you're taking a 3rd now. Or sorry, I like that you're taking a 4th now, because you don't fully know, or did you scout it? Yeah, you don't fully know how early this Terran is taking his 3rd. And this is a realistic timing to take when you're not sure. You're fully saturated. Pretty much. You're missing a couple drones. You're oversaturated by 1, and you're missing drones here for the gas. But realistically, you're very close to saturation. This is a great time to it means that you're now able to start powering units, and then there's no reason why you shouldn't just add in a 4th base. There's no reason why you could not afford this. So I love your 4th timing based off of what you've scouted. I think your biggest mistake so far in this game is not having a 2nd Overlord. That's the biggest one. Keep producing. Making a few more drones. I like it. I want you to fix your eco quickly. But overall, good economy. And now you have choices. Okay, this is okay. Perfect. I really like that I paused it here, because what I was about to say was, you have choices right now, and if you're not going to take this gas on purpose, and you're just going to make more Lings and more Banes, and you're not going to prioritize something more like Mutas or Hydras, you fucking need a macro hatch. And you're making a macro hatch. You can still totally make a gas as well, and you can still make Hydras. That's totally fine, but I really, really, really like that you're making a macro hatch right now as well. And now, because you made the macro hatch, I am okay if you do or don't take this gas, because you have plenty of gas to make Banes, continuously flow upgrades and also continuously flow your tech simultaneously. If you do take a Hydrogen though, or you do take a Spire, I really want you to take, and you're making an infestation bait, which means you're going for a Hive. If you do take a tech unit though on layer, I want you to take the gas. We'll see if you do. But if you don't, if you do not make Hydras and Mutas, I'm okay with you not taking that gas. You're I was about to say, you're not scouting his third as much as I would like though. I feel like you haven't scouted it in about a full minute. I like that you have a Ling here chilling, but you have no vision of the other. I hope you just shove a Ling forward, because right now, you're at that stage right now where you don't. I love that you took the base, because it's you know, you should take the fourth base. Like we talked about earlier, you're fully saturated. There's no reason not to. But you should know if he's gonna try to take a fourth base, or sorry, you should know if he's gonna try to take a third base or not. You should have some type of an idea of that. Because now you're getting to that stage where if this guy does not take a third, and he's a 2-base all-in Terran, and you go, you know what sounds like a good idea? Droning my fourth base. You should die. However, if this guy does take a third, and you go, you know what sounds like a good idea? Making mass Lings. There is no guarantee. Like, you're definitely not going to die in that situation, because he's going to have less army now earlier in the game, because he's going to be building up for a better army later. He's going to have more infrastructure to then slam units out later on. But if you don't know, if he does have a third and you don't know that, and you make the wrong choice by making mass army, the only way that would make sense is if you did a quick timing on his third and pounced on it and denied it or overpowered it, made him lift it off, killed SCVs, something like that. Because if you make a lot of army now and you do nothing about the fact that he took a third base, and you're just cranking units out all day, you're falling behind again. Because you're effectively now staying on 3-base versus 3-base. So knowing if he does or doesn't have a third is like, at this stage now, that is gonna make or break the rest of your build. Up to this point, very well done. But I really want you to know if he has a third or not. I really hope you send a Ling out really soon. Because it's getting to that point where you need to know, like, really bad. And I'm really watching your production. So you see you're building drones. If you do this against a player that is good at doing a timing, you just... Let's say he's 2-basing you. You would definitely be dead now. If this guy shows up with a solid as fuck marine tank timing off of a 2-base, 5 racks, 1 factory, 1 starport build, you die. We'll see how excessive you... Yeah, you're going even more excessive into it. You're making even more drones. You would die. You're assuming he has a third. And that's... He does have a third, so you're getting lucky. But that is a luck choice right there. That is not a strategy choice. You just rolled the dice.
Swarm forces under attack.
So anyways, from this point on, you made the right choice. I mean, you're assuming it because of a Viking. That has nothing to do with it. A Viking killing your Overlord has nothing to do if he does or does not take a third base. A Viking is actually... a Viking has multiple purposes for Terran. It's not just to hide like his eco or his tech. It's also to kill your Overlords, to alleviate drop paths. So it has not only defensive purposes, but it has aggressive purposes. So you can't just say, because he has a Viking, he has a third base. There's too many things a Viking does with avenues it leads to that you can't just sum it up like that. But again, I'm not gonna harp on it. We'll just pretend you sent a Ling out here and you saw he had a third command center. I'm just gonna pretend that happened. Okay? Because you are playing the game correctly still at this point. Even though it was a gamble. But because you did the right thing even though you didn't know what he was doing. But yeah, we'll move on. So at this point, I like your drone count now against a 3-base Terran. I think now at this point it needs to, at this point It needs to stop. You definitely need to stop making drones now. If you keep going even more than this, I'm going to be very worried for you. Because you are at that supreme greed stage here. You have 87 already, and now you're making another 6. Like, this is fucking sexy, right? But if you go any further than this, it's a little too sexy. You're going to get punished. This is like, you've already gotten out of the bank with the loot. But now you're saying, you know what? I want to go back because I dropped 200 bucks in the lobby. I'm going back. We're going back, guys. That I'm not leaving anything behind. Okay? If you keep making drones, this is getting to that point where now it's a little too greedy. And I would also love to see, because you've saturated your 4th base, right? Because you just saturated your 4th base, I love it, but take a second macro hatch somewhere. Because you are definitely going for Lings, specifically. You did make a Hydrogen, and you also made a Spire, which means you're going to be going Ling Hydrobane into Broodlords. Because you also have a Hive on the way. I like your build, but take us the second you get away with this, okay? The second you get away with this fucking drone count, 2 macro hatches. You need it. Because your build is very Ling-centric still. You're still going to make Lings with the Hydras, and you're also going to make Lings with the Broodlords. So 2 macro hatches. I like that you're expanding again. One thing about your creep, I think you neglected the creep down here a little too long. It's not the biggest of deals, but this base, this is I'll just say this, a great test to see if your creep is good is as soon as you go for a 4th base, your first 3 bases don't apply to this rule because you expand before you have creep. But as soon as you take a 4th base in a standard build, and this is a standard build, your creep should already be like a full screen length ahead of your base. So your creep right now on this base should be like, if we're talking about, what the fuck's going on? There we go. If we're talking about a creep, if we're talking about a screen length of creep, if that's your hatchery, your creep should be like to here already. Like a full screen length of cover for every base you take after this. That would be great. And then again, this creep over here too would be covering this hatchery. Your creep on this hatchery should be like down to here as well by the time you take that base. Your creep on the south side is looking a little weak. I don't think you you know, focused enough on the south side of creep. Your creep in front of your base in the middle of the map is great. The middle of the map for the center creep is great. It's definitely, you can see the quality of spread on it, and you can see how much you've put a lot of work into it and how much time has passed, so your creep is looking really good in front of your base. You have like 2 screen lengths of creep in front of your 3rd base right now. That's solid. You definitely could have more on the south side though. You can see there's like it's like a divot in your creep that shouldn't be there. So keep that in mind. Always try to have like a screen length of creep in front of every single base you take. Unless it's like a ninja base. It's just a good way to gauge if your creep is good or bad. Because your build right now is good. Your overall build is good, but your creep is honestly a little under. Like, if your creep was like a A, if your build was an A right now, your creep would be like a C. It's a little, your creep is not keeping up the par with your build. And there you go. He's pushing from the one side you're not ready for either. That fucking sucks. That's exactly why. This is going to be way harder to defend now. This is way harder to defend now because your creep should be giving you... You have no mobility up this ramp now. This is the worst location you could be getting attacked from. And you also... You made drones to a point of extreme greed. And I like it. But now the only way this really is going to not get you killed is good injects. Your inject there is okay. It's there is okay. There is alright. It's good. There is a little under. So you've missed 3 injects here. This inject is not ready yet, which means you're perfect. This inject here is slightly delayed by probably like 5 seconds or 6 seconds. Same with this one. You're falling out of a little bit of your larva that you could have, and you're also supply blocked right now, which sucks because you have the overlords really far away. So this timing is gonna be really difficult for you to deal with. I would not be surprised if your base breaks right now. You're like your 4th base, and then that's gonna set the pace for you to be really far behind. So Biggest problem here is your creep. That's your downfall in this position. Secondly, if you're gonna drone this hard, you need to really have clean injects. I know I advocate 90 drones and shit a lot, 80 to 90 drones. Like 90's like sexy as fuck. I love your drone count. Your drone count is insanely scary for Terran to deal with. You're like, this is a fucking scary economy for Terran to look at. Basically, if this fails for Terran, you just win the game. But your army right now is looking a little bit, you know, sad. So your your injects are kind of the reason for that. Another thing too is every time you take another base, I think you already did it as well. I'm pretty sure you did because you're queen of the placement of your queens, but just make sure you're doing this as well. I'm gonna back it up really quick right before this. I want to see if you did it. I gotta know. You didn't do it. Okay, you built a queen. Every time you take a base, this should be what you do as well, and this will help you. This will help you actually get away with shit like this. So your 4th base is finishing right now at 634. This base, if you played perfectly, should be being injected already right now. I like your queen count. You have queen, 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 and 4 queen. We are past the stage in the game where we are sub-saturation of 3 bases. We're past that point. So your queens being an integral part of your army is also no longer really that valid. The higher the supply count goes, the less useful these queens will be. Realistically, if you fight this guy around 100 supply, your queens will be like, we're coming, we're dead. Like, they're just gonna fucking die immediately. It's not like you're fighting against like 15 Marines and 2 tanks. You're gonna be fighting against like 50 Marines and like 5 tanks. You know, once he does the timing, eventually. Or something like that. Like, you're going to be fighting a much bigger army that can just insta-kill your queens. So, the later the game goes, there's 2 reasons for this. The later the game goes, your queens become less useful in the fights, which is one reason why you should rip a queen of your creep spreaders off to inject. And a second reason is because you already have so many active tumors, you do not need 4 or 5 queens or whatever spaking creep everywhere anymore. If you already have like 30 tumors active, you can literally get away with going, alright, 4th base, one of my 4 creep spreading queens go rip off and go to inject. You now have three creep spreaders. You take another base, you rip off another queen. Now you have 2 creep spreaders, and now you have another queen injecting a 5th base. That is perfect for maintenance of your resources and your mechanics. Once you have a lot of active tumors, you don't need as many active spreaders because the tumors are doing the work for you now. But now, if you're powering your economy this fucking hard, you definitely need larva. And making a new queen at this hatchery is incorrect. This should not like, you should already, like, for number 1, you're missing an entire inject. Because, you're missing an entire inject because you're waiting for a queen to spawn at it now. Plus, you know, you're making even more supply now, and you're spending more resources onto another queen, which is going to honestly be useless at this stage of the game now, because you're past the point of harass. Now you're at the point of timing and all in. It's either all in or timing, one or the other. And at this stage, queens start becoming less useful
Complete.
when you're going for the drone power mode into Lingbane Hydra. Like, it's just, you know what I mean. The higher the supply goes, the less queens are going to actually do anything.
Swarm forces.
So we'll speed it up again to the timing.
Newly birthed sequence.
And again, your number 1 problem, like I said before, is your creep being out of place. This is fucking you for this timing. Your second problem is your larva is, honestly, at this stage, past 3 base, is falling off a little bit for the reasons, you know, we talked about. We looked at your queens. You're a little bit behind on your 3rd base, and you're also, your 4th base wasn't properly injected the way it should have been. So you're falling a little behind in those regards. And now we'll see how you fight this. But you can see, I gotta say this one more time. Still, I'll give you props. I give props to you still, because even though there's still room to grow here for you, but even though you're doing it at the rate you're doing it, you're still crushing the Terran supply before the fight even starts by 17. That is still a positive. Like, if you're keeping a lead over the Terran, you are better than this Terran player. It is not an easy thing to do to maintain supply leads over Terran when nothing has really happened other than the fact that you've just lost a couple units before this. Like the Viking killed a couple overlords. What else died? I can't remember. Did drones die? I just started the replay over. My bad. Let's zoom back to it. No. Just a few units have died. I don't know. A couple Lings died, I guess. A couple overlords died. It's whatever. But Terran, if you do nothing to Terran and Terran does nothing to you, supplies actually stay somewhat similar in today's age after Larva nerf. So the fact that you're keeping a lead, and it's not even like a supply lead of like 4 or 5, it's a supply lead of 16, or yeah, it was actually 17 a second ago. I like that. That's not bad. I give you props, but you could be even better. There's even more room to grow here. Anyways, let's see this.
Hive cluster under direct assault.
Okay, so you crushed. That Terran like that. Honestly, for him was his build wasn't as efficient as he could have done either. He overextended. He just gave you map control. So now, and you didn't even lose that much. I would say right now, this should be the exact thing you do. You fix your saturation of all your bases. Get these gases saturated. Get this gas saturated. I wouldn't give a fuck if you made new drones to do it, or you just ripped off these ones. I really wouldn't care, because your drone count already is juicy. And if you made new drones to saturate it, it would put you at 95, and I would be fine with that because you just killed his army. I would be okay if you went to 95. But again, you could do either. You could just, I would just love to see you get the gases saturated because you're going for a hive and a spire. And you're going to need to start, you have 2-2 started. You're going to need to go for adrenal glands. It would be great if you went for a greater spire. And then you could also go into broodlords after that, which is all gas expensive as fuck. So I would love to see that. And then I would also love to see you now at this stage, because you have a greater spire, do not force a fight to happen, but instead do not let a 4th base go down. That's your goal. That should be your goal right now. And also spread your creep. Every single time you win a fight like that, you should also fix and spread your creep. This is somewhat excessive. If you use infestors, I agree with this. If you don't use infestors, this is getting excessive. I love your ambition, though, your enthusiasm. But I do not like your lack of scout. You need to really know if he's got a 4th base. Ling here, Ling here, Ling here. Spread that fucking creep a little faster. Because if the Terran loses an army, he loses map control. And the best way to fuck a Terran over, as long as you can macro and keep all the macro elements going as well as you can, the best way to screw a Terran over is to consume the map further by the time they do their next timing, if you're on defense that long. Because if he shows up and attacks you again and your creep is still in the same spot, that sucks for you because you have no advantage then. You like lose, you forego your advantage you could have had just by being more diligent with your creep. Like every time you spread that line across the entire map one more time, your percentage of chance of winning the game goes up like a little bit. Like if you consumed this line, this is like half the. You're consuming a line that literally stretches across the entire map, and I would say right now at this stage of the game, if I was watching this game and I wanted to take an educated guess, I would say Sapien right now has a 60% chance to win this game. He has a lead, but it's not game ending. But he does have the advantage. And if you spread this creep, and that creep finished, and it all started going to the next spot. The creep tumors activated the creep spread to the next spot. I would be like, all right, he has now probably like a 63% chance. You do it again, he like has a 66% chance. Every time you spread that creep, your chance just literally increases of going up to win because you reduce the ability for you not to know something happening, like a fucking doom drop or something going on the side of the map. The fact that he's pushing, you have more room to work with in front of your bases to where your bases aren't dying. They're not exposed. You see drops way easier. Everything, like obviously everyone understands what creep does for you. It increases so much of your build though. Like the power of everything just goes up for feeling comfortable and also just having literal unit buff.
Newly birthed queen ready.
And there, look again. He's pushing you in the exact same spot, and your creep is no further than it was before. And you got attacked 2 minutes ago. Or 1 minute ago, rather. It was like 1 minute and 20 seconds ago. 7:50 is when he does he launches this attack at 7:50. Now let's fast forward.
Mineral cluster expended.
He launches the next attack at like 9:10. So yeah, you're like 1 minute and 20 seconds of like, you made like 1 tumor. So creep is also a big priority here. You need, like, scouting his bases for his base count and spreading your creep is super important. That should be like, as hard as you droned. I think like, this is what I think. I think Sapien, this is what I'm seeing right now. Your early game, you're doing it repeatedly, and I commend you on your. You've advanced so much since I first watched you play a game. You are way better. Like you are definitely masters. Possibly even getting into the realm of like close to GM. You're the first 3 minutes of this game, other than the fact of your scouting, is GM quality. The fact that you didn't know he had a third, and you like, you know, you skipped the lings and you made drones and shit, that's a little scary. And the fact that you made drones again for the 4th of your base when you didn't know he had a third is scary. Basically, what I'm saying is you have there's a few risks that I see you take repeatedly sometimes with little to no information on certain things. But overall, execution of your build is capable of getting into GM. Based off of your opponent playing like this, you got to keep in mind you will not play as good against the better players because they will force you to do more. But against this guy, if I was watching this game, okay, and someone told me Sapien's GM, I would be like, yeah, it's okay. I wouldn't question it because you have controlled this guy. You were definitely better than the Stern player. That much is obvious from what I've seen so far because you are just pacing way faster than he is. But you are definitely making a few mistakes here and there. But then as soon as the game goes into the stage where you have to, I feel like you're like, you know, the first like 6 minutes is like you've done it so many times that you're comfortable with it. But now beyond that, you don't do it nearly as much. And again, that's totally fine. I don't think there's a problem with that. But keep this in mind. This is something you should take going into the future. What you've done with the early game, you've done it well enough to now develop a late game off of proper situations. Like if you can do this every game, you are capable of developing a late game that is appropriate for a GM player. It's not like some fucked up game where I'm like, okay, massive mistakes have happened. This game is a total dud at this point. You need to work on the early game. It's nothing like that. You have actually you can put yourself into GM level situations, like after the opener, and work on that after the opener. You're gonna have to repeatedly work on that. It's something you have to develop over practice. But yeah, I really want you to keep that in mind. Okay, it's really important. So don't get, like, you know, if you lose games here and there, don't get down on yourself about it. You are literally able to put yourself in a GM situation. You just need to advance from there. Scouting is huge, but also controlling the map is huge. You've actually taken advantages and kind of like just let them fall in the trash can. You're like, oh, I have an advantage, and dropped it. I have an advantage, dropped it. And it's because you're a creep. From the event, like the things this Terran has done to you, you've thrown them away based off your creep. It not moving that much. We'll see what happens now, but you might lose a base because of that again. And you do. Now you lose the queen, now you're losing drones.
Swarm has evolved.
He's killing more of your creep. One of the worst things. So obviously we can clearly see the damage you just took, right? We can clearly see. All right, you took some fucking drone losses, resources lost. You took some damage right there. Hatchery died, queen died. That's obvious as fuck. Everyone understands that. It's like Zergonids were there and now they're not. We all understand that logic, right? But another thing you lost, which is even more important than the drones you just lost because you are rich as fuck still, is time. You just lost time, and time is actually one of the most important. It honestly is the most important resource in StarCraft. You don't get what this means is you just lost all the fucking creep on your south side again. So this is a blind spot for you that is humongously. That's a big blind spot, and this gives Terran a lot of control of the south side of the map. So I would say what you need to do, what I would love for you to do, is immediately, if you can, run this fucking queen up here and put a creep tumor at the edge of the creep as far as you can. Or, because you have Overlord speed, you do have it. I would love, if you ever get in a situation where you're like, fuck, this Terran player like killed all my creep in this area, but I killed his army. It'd also be a great idea for you maybe to bring like 3 Overlords and just shit creep here, here, and here. And you just leapfrog a couple of tumors to like expedite that creep spread. So like just get your time back. Do something that's going to be like, it's going to replace your creep. It's more risky, but it's really not risky because you have map control. I'm not saying you have to do that with all your creep all the time, but if a player manages to just really fuck your creep up in one spot for repeatedly over and over, and you're not fixing it as well as you should be, it might not be the worst idea to just have some Overlords come fix it really fast for you and have some queens near it to just put some shit down. So, because yeah, your creep is a major blind spot, and I feel like this is going to fuck you repeatedly. It already has screwed you over twice this game.
Field exhausted.
2 out of 2 times it has screwed you over. And I know why you pulled back there. It's because he has Widow Mines. So, and you're getting super paranoid about the situation. You could 100% crush his army. I know that because I can see your supply. And I think that you making the decision of going like, if I were watching you over your shoulder, I would not tell you this is wrong. I would not be like, bro, what the fuck are you doing with your drones? Why are you running away? You should crush him. Because what I would be telling you is I would be saying, all right, Sapien, I know you're busy playing this game. I know there's a lot going on, and I'm not trying to annoy you here, but for the last 4 minutes, almost 5 minutes now, I've been telling you to scout his third. Please, for the love of God, scout his third base. Maybe you'll see a 4th base at this point. Maybe you'll see a 5th base. We have no idea how many bases the fucking Terran's on, so you don't know how really committed to this push this Terran is. And you don't have creep spread down there either, so you don't know how deep this Terran line goes. But if we knew how many bases he was on, you could get a very educated guess, because there's a limitation to things you can fight against based on how many bases your Terran opponent goes for at early times. And if we would have known you killed his first army, okay? If I would have known you killed his first army, and then you also scouted a 3rd base, okay? I would tell you, you do not need to evacuate these drones. You can crush this shit. This is not a 2-base all-in. This is not somebody who has just gone power mode the entire time off of a shit economy, where this is like a do-or-die fight for him. This is just harass. This is just something that is meant to slow you down so he can slowly pull the lead ahead of you. Well, you don't know that because you literally have no idea how many bases he has. That's your biggest weakness. Every time I've watched your games is you don't scout his base count enough.
Hive cluster under direct assault. Evolution, mutation, complete.
Okay. Now, against this, this is a major problem. Like, this is a whole fucking mess. What I would tell you now, if you plan on taking this fight, okay? If your plan was, I'm going to take this fight, you definitely do not have enough banelings. I would say you need to you have 66 lings, 6 hydras, and 7 banes. There are 2 ways to take this fight. The first way you take this fight is you send forward, you can send forward some Ling Bane and Hydra simultaneously, or you can just send forward your Hydras if the Terran player overcommits his Widow Mines with the Overseer. And you have the goal of just picking off the Widow Mines if you can pick them off for free. Secondly, that's one way you can do it. The Hydras could just pick the Widow Mines off, right? And maybe if there's like a few bio units there, you can send a couple of Ling Bane forward, like 5 Banes and 8 Lings. Nothing crazy. However, if you don't want to do that instead, and now you want to actually try to just set the Widow Mines off, you have to always send Lings plus Banes forward, together. So I would say you need to make like a good 20 Banes right now, And you could send in like 7 Banes and like 10 Lings. Just that. At his army, just like you did when it happened. Like right...
Sequences spun. Swarm has evolved.
Right about now. Like you do it really soon. But if you had more Banes being started, you would have the ability to fall back to more Banes afterwards. But instead what you do is you send nothing but Zerglings forward. The only time, the only thing the Terran has to do to counter that is literally have his bio in front of his mines, and he can kill all your Zerglings before the mines go off at all. Or, if he doesn't have enough bio to kill all your Lings as they engage, because he doesn't have to move since you're not sending Banes forward, is he could just literally up-burrow the Widow Mines and re-burrow them as your Lings are trying to set them off, and all your Lings die. You're basically just donating Lings if you only send just Zerglings. And that's it. We'll see exactly how it goes. But that is what a Terran will do to you if he's not, you know, if he's competent at micro. That Terran just made a massive mistake. That should not work. What you just did should not work. This Terran is probably just like fucking throwing his mouse on the floor half the time when he's playing the game. He's like, what you just did shouldn't work. It shouldn't. But it did. Just know that it shouldn't.
Cluster under direct assault.
You are a better player than this guy. Like, there's many things that are telling me that. I think, like, there's a few of your decisions that, you know, can be improved upon, but you are definitely a better player than this guy. Which gives me a lot of hope for you, you know? Like, you seriously could get to GM if you clean up some other stuff. And, again, that's just going to take time, but I have a lot of confidence in you, Sapien. You have a lot of potential. Now, here's another mistake you're making, though. You don't know base count. Once again, you have no idea on base count. You just won a fight, and you are doing the same problem again. You are neglecting your creep. Your injects are starting to fall a little bit behind. The game is starting to get in that stage, right, where it's a little bit more overwhelming than it was before. You have a little bit of infrastructure problems in your build where you have a hive. You had it for a long time. You've had enough time also to make broods, yet you don't have 3-3 started, and you've had other expenses like an Ultralisk Cavern. And do you have anything else in production right now? You're also making infestors before you make 3-3. And did you make pathogen glands? You also made pathogen glands. Like 3-3 is definitely, like, if you look at your build, 3-3 is definitely a priority here. Infestors come after broods, and broods also, unless you are being pressured really hard and there's no way you're gonna win the fight because this guy's got so many tanks or something like that. I would say broods are not a priority before 3-3. But to be fair, your upgrades were a little bit late. I'm not gonna. I take it back. I take it back. I actually liked your Evo Chamber timing. What I'm saying is actually more towards like Wings of Liberty. I take back the upgrade thing I said. Wings of Liberty, that would have what I said would have applied. But in Legacy of the Void, I'm not opposed to you getting Brood Lords before 3-3. So that's fine, because a proper upgrade time in Legacy of the Void is you take Evo Chambers at layer, which overall delays your 3-3. So that's fine. But the big thing, though, again, is there's a couple problems in your build that could be fixed. Like, for instance, I still think 3-3 at this point now could be started before Infestors, for sure. I feel like it's being neglected. Your economy is, it could be fixed here and there. There it could be fixed by 3. At this point now, it's down by 1. Not the biggest of deals. Over by 1. This has been over by 1 for a long time. I know you transferred drones away. This is now, I think you're in the process of saturating the space. You are. My point is there's a few problems. There's like things that are more important right now to fix rather than freaking out to attack him. I would love if you still ran across the map with something to scout him. But you're attacking, you're like a wild animal attacking blindly right now because you don't know where the fuck you're going. You're just going to pick something at random and be like, hope it works. So if you scouted around the side of the map, I would love it. If you fixed your creep right now as a priority while you're, like, first things first, scout. Second thing, creep. Next thing, inject. Next thing, fix economy. What did you scout? Then you attack. That should be like the order of what you're doing, right? It would make way more sense. It would be way more strategical. You would have way less chance for making a bunch of fucking mistakes. But what I could see happening right now is you could run into a planetary. You could run into a bunch of widow mines. You could run into something that could fuck you up. And at the same time, when you're running blindly across the map like this, you also might run into nothing. And at the same time, this Terran player might be walking to your base to fuck you up again as well. He might be dropping you on a different side of the map, and you're running like you might run into a base that has nothing there, and you get dropped, and you go, ah, shit. Do I want to ult him now, or do I want to just run back home and take losses while I run back home? Like it's not good for you to just make blind choices like this, because there's so many things that could go wrong. You just at the very least need to know where his bases are, and you're running to a base that has nothing. So even this is a problem, because what if there was a base that was vulnerable before this, and you could have killed it, but now you just gave him an extra like 10 seconds because you went to the wrong location, and now that 10 seconds could have made or break the difference of a planetary finishing, or tanks being sieged, or something being in position now. Like it's terrible to not have a to know nothing about his base. And also on top of this, I feel like you're getting impatient because now you're also splitting your army up, and you have like 31 lings exactly that are running through his position now, where they might just die. They don't. This is risky though. Watching this is just like risky as fuck. And now you're just diving forward into his natural. This is super risky. I think you're way too impatient the way you play it. And again, if he has enough bio, like I said before, this should never work. This guy has way too many marauders, by the way. He almost has the 1-to-1 ratio of Marine to Marauder. Did he scout? You have an Ultralisk Cavern? No. I don't know why the fuck he has so many Marauders. That seriously shouldn't work. The reason why that's working is because this guy has too many Marauders, so he can't physically kill your Lings. It shouldn't work though. Oh my god.
Mineral field depleted. Hive cluster under direct assault.
But here's a good example, right? Imagine if this guy had a better composition and he actually denied you. You said to yourself, you know what, fuck this. I don't want to attack right now. I don't want to attack this guy right here because let's just say your first Lings didn't set off his Widow Mines like that because he had a proper comp. He kills a few of your Lings. He doesn't kill your whole army. He kills a few of your Lings that you send forward. And then he drops you at the same time and you go, ah, fuck, I didn't set the Widow Mines off. His army's still right there. It's kind of scary. I'm going to go back home. And what would happen if you went back home? You lose a hatchery and you still haven't spread your creep. So you have taken an advantage and dumped into the fucking trash can. Hypothetically, if you didn't just blow his army up right there, if he did it properly, if he doesn't have fucking 15 Marauders and 16 Marines. You understand what I mean though? Like there's more important things you should be doing. But instead, you decided, instead of spreading your creep and also prematurely scouting his bases with just like one Ling, you went around the map and scouted and saw nothing and went back and then went back again and we're like, oh, there he is. Like you wasted time. It was literally just a waste of time. And time is, again, like I said before, like the most important resource in StarCraft. Yes, I'm kind of panicking at this point. You know why you're panicking, Sapien? It's because you don't know. Like, here's the thing. Let me give you an analogy that I bet everyone can relate to, because if you're near my age. Anyone here ever play Final Fantasy when you were a kid? And do you remember when you played that game? Like, we're talking like Final Fantasy 7 or some shit. And when you played that game, there was an ability to scan your opponent, and you could literally see before the fight started how much damage this thing does, how much health this thing has. And you can get a real gauge to be like, how strong is it going to be? How, like, is this going to be a pushover, or is it going to be kind of hard for me to deal with? You can fucking see it by giving yourself stats you're working with here. And that's kind of like what it's like. What's kind of like what it would be like if you just scouted his expansions. That's all you got to do is just one Ling could be like, does he have a fourth? Does he have a third? Does he have a second base? You do a great job at scouting as natural up to that point and all that stuff. But you like when I tell you to scout as well, again, it's not like with Overlord speed, and it's just a Zergling. I think I said that as well already a few times. It's a Ling scout. A Zergling just runs around. You could be like, one Ling, run around the bottom. Bop, 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 bop. Okay, it sees all the bases. Nothing, nothing, nothing. Base. Ling, scout the top. Nothing, 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 nothing. Base. One more Ling, go to the center of the map. Nothing there yet. Or it wasn't earlier. And it's still nothing because it's just chilling there. And maybe his army comes across it and kills it. And maybe 1 minute later, 2 minutes later, you scout again. In the same way. You do it every once in a while. Every 1 to 2 minutes. Like, every 1 minute preferably, but every 2 minutes is still acceptable because it's not enough time for shit to just go fucking crazy. But scouting his bases is huge because then it tells you what kind of power level of Terran are we dealing with here. Are we dealing with all-inner? Are we dealing with a mid-range player who's just playing kind of like... He's staying a little bit too long on his base count and he's going to bleed out over time, but he still has the power for, like, you know, to be aggressive for the next couple minutes off of like 3 bases? Or is this a guy who's being really greedy? And every time he attacks me, he's like making another base. 4th base, planetary. 5th base, planetary. And he's like ramping up as he attacks. Because these attacks are not like really committed timings. They're more just harassment and control-based timings. You're going to have to deal with these kinds of players all the time, the higher you go. Not everyone is just going to be like 3 bases and I'm done. Or all in, you know what I mean? Like the game develops still beyond this stage. So giving yourself the ability to know what the Terran has should give you more comfort in the fact that you know what you're dealing with, and it's not like, time to fucking kill him. Oh my god, I'm panicking. And the other thing that'll help ease your mind as Zerg is every single time you win a fight, if you just consume the map. Can you imagine if you did that? Because you kind of stopped creep spreading for the last like 4 minutes here. Or 3 minutes. About like 4 minutes. Like around like 7 minutes your creep was here, seriously. Like this creep tumor was there at like 7 minutes. Imagine if your creep was like at the base of this ramp. If your creep was at the base of or like the top of this ramp and it like kind of spread over here too so you can see drops. If your creep you kind of fix the creep down here even though we killed some of it, maybe you fix it and your creep is like at the top of this ramp. You could see everything, and that's like it's even spread down here to where like you can see this too. So if a drop comes this way, like this drop, you would have seen it on the minimap. You have a lot of chances to see it. You have an overlord, like overlord, creep, 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 overlord. You just fill in the map. Every time you win a fight, you fill in the map a little bit more. You just shove the Terran back into his corner with vision. Because not only is it just vision, but it also gives you mobility. So now you can rotate your army around really fucking fast. And you can always be in a position to fuck him up before he does anything to you that's actually scary. And even though I told you to rip off some of your queens to inject, you would still have 1 or 2 creep spreading queens. Always. Like leave always 1 or 2. Stop ripping your queens off to inject and leave like 1 or 2 so you can fix your creep. And that queen that goes and fixes creep, if the Terran scans right here, kills all your creep right here, and then he starts pushing forward, you now have the ability to go, I know where you are, and you're pushing forward. I'm going to have an army go there, and an army go there. I'm going to fucking sandwich you. I'm just going to kill your army, and then I'm going to bring that queen over here, and I'm going to go fix some of that creep before it fully dissipates, and it's immediately fixed. And now the Terran is shoved into his corner even more. It's because of the lack of control of the map that you're not taking. You win the fight, but you just do nothing to control the map. So then you're like, I don't know what he's doing. Fuck, dude. Shit. I don't know. Fuck, attack. You just got to control the map. More patience. Just know that when you spread your creep, your odds of winning increase. Because when you have map hack and you see the entire map, the chances of Terran winning are like less than 10%. Especially if you know for a fact this motherfucker is not on a 4th base because you've contained him so many times. Like, you've killed his army and pushed in the contain further. And now to take a 4th base, this guy has to scan and kill your creep. And also somehow manage to, like, push your broodlords back with an economy that's mining out on his current 3 bases. Like, he doesn't have money forever. He's going to run out of money. And that should be, like, a feeling of you being like, alright, well, I've pretty much won now. The only chance you have now is if I make a massive mistake.
Hive cluster under direct assault.
I just think I think your build overall is good for the most part. I just think you still have a lot of room to develop with understanding pacing of a game, which again is totally fine.
Mineral field.
Because what you're doing right now, once again, is you don't know if he has this base. You do not know if he has this base. You have not scouted it. You don't even know if he has this base. What if this Terran player, every time he kept shoving the bottom side of the map, the reason why he did that is because he kept expanding along the south side of the map. And this was a planetary. This was a planetary. And let's just say this Terran was working with like 80 SCVs. And he had like 3 orbital commands in the back of his main. He seriously could have that. If this Terran player was GM level Terran, I would not be surprised if he had that. I know you're not playing a GM level player right now, but I'm just saying, if he had that, and you push into this blindly, and you don't even know if these bases exist or not, you could be pushing into a situation where he could have also scanned your base and went, okay, or he knows you have Broodlords because you used them earlier on his army. You actually showed you had them. What if this guy had a good economy and he had like 4 starports, okay? And he goes, all right, I have 8 Vikings down here. I got 8 Vikings over here, which is very realistic for him to have had, and the amount of time that's passed since you revealed them to now. And then he goes, all right, I got like a bunch of Vikings. I'm going to have this massive spread. And then I'm going to just kind of like have some buyout come from here. I'm going to have some buyout come from here. And I'm just going to stim forward with Vikings all over your shit. And your Broodlords just go, oh, fuck. Oh, God, this is a big army and we're dead. That's how you lose the game. When if you would have known he has bases that are more vulnerable, because you're not going to the heart of his base. A base that could be more vulnerable would be like, what if there was a base here and now you engage from the edge of your creep and there's no way he gets this massive great attack on you because you have your safety net behind you. It's your area, your territory. And you kill this base and you spread it forward, and then you kill this base and you spread it forward. It would make, like, there's a risk, right? I'm not saying that that's a guaranteed thing in the game, but you don't know if that's happening or not. You're putting yourself in a situation where you're just going, flip that coin, and hopefully it lands up heads for me to win. And if it lands up tails, I guess I lose. Judging by how many times this guy has thrown his army away, I would assume he does not have bases everywhere. This is most likely his 4th. But this Terran player is somebody you judging off of how, like, your build and his build, your build is just so much more efficient than his. The only reason why this guy is even a problem for you at all is because of your decision making and your awareness of the map. Your build just crushed his ass, though. I liked it a lot. I very much approve of this build. The only thing is I think you just, like I said before, have you started 3-3 yet? Still no. I think as soon as you went into that mode where you defended a couple of his attacks and you're like, time to counterattack, I don't know. No base. Maybe base? Army? I don't know. Back up again. He attacked me. Okay, I killed that army. He attacked me with time to counterattack again. And as soon as you get into that mode, like, you just like throw your game plan out the window and you're just like, someone's gonna die. It's like playing Russian roulette at that point. It's like, it'd be like, you know, imagine if you were in a fight and you're just like, you're like blocking everything, ducking everything, dodging his shit. You're like counterattacking him every single time. You're fucking him up really bad. You're using what you know. And then it gets to a point where he pulls out a gun and you just like stop. You don't like disarm it somehow and just keep fucking him up. You just go, all right, let's play some fucking Russian roulette now. Spin that shit. Let's see who loses. You just gotta, you know, play a little bit more patient. Again, like I said before, you have so much potential with so many things I've seen. But you just, like, you throw all logic out the window as soon as the fights start happening. Like the later fights, once you're, like, you know, at that stage where you're ready to ramp it up. Overall, pretty good, though. Try your best to not... So this is the end of the game, obviously. It's over. You won. Good shit. I like that. I actually like that you submitted this one, though, because this shows me so many fucking things you can work on. I think this is a perfect example of how you can improve. I think if I had to commend you on anything, Sapien, It is your choice of replay. This is a perfect replay for you to improve. I think you couldn't have chosen a better one. This is so, like, this is just really good. This is like you to, like, I feel like this is just you flawlessly executing the start of a build. And then you start getting to this point where you're like not scouting and you're gambling, and you're not scouting and you're gambling. And then further than that, once the game develops to another stage, now you're also not scouting and you're gambling, and you're also no longer doing infrastructure, and you're no longer upkeeping your build anymore. You just throw that shit out the window. So just know your build starts up with the droning and getting to, like, you know, your good drone count. That's something that's stable. You should definitely scout to make sure what stages are safe and what stages are not safe. Scouting a third base, I agree with your build entirely. All you had to do was scout his third base, and I would have agreed with how you droned. You would have, like, you still won the fight, as you can see, and the only reason why that happened is because he took a third. If he did not take a third and he attacked you with a bigger army, you would have died with the way you droned. You should know things like that. Or keep them in mind, rather. And then also on top of that, when you another part of your build that you should think about is your creep should be part of your build. The whole thing of, like, what I told you about with how to gauge if your creep spread is good or not. Your build is good, but if your creep is always one screen, like the head of the new expansions you take, past 3 base, so your 4th base, your 5th base, your 6th base, if your creep spread is ahead of that base by at least 1 screen length, that is on par. If it's 2 screen lengths ahead, your creep is fucking amazing, or your expansions are late, depending on whatever that is. You know, you can judge it for yourself based off of how the game is going. Maybe you're behind because you killed a lot of your drones or some shit. It really depends on the game. But if it's like a standard game, nothing bad has happened, and you're really far ahead of your bases when you expand it, but you're doing it at normal times, your creep is amazing. If your creep is not ahead of your bases, your creep is under par. It's behind where it should be. That's just how it works. And then also, on top of that, you should try your best to also just keep starting your creep every time you have map control. And your opponent, you should always, no matter what, spread your creep, even if you don't have map control. But when you do have map control, because your opponent just lost an army, just know that that is the prime time to go fucking crazy on creep spread. Be like, every tumor, spread. All right, I just spread 20 fucking tumors. Because now you are going to control, like, those 20 tumors you just spread is going to consume like 10% more of the map. Like, you will literally consume like 10% more of the map in a solid line across the map. And it's going to give you so much more control of the game. And you just do it again and again and again. And knowing where your opponent's bases are. Scouting your base count of your opponent repeatedly all the time. Every like minute to 2 minutes that goes by, I really want you to have a good idea of where the fuck this Terran's expanding and how many bases he has. I'm not saying you have to always scout through his base entirely and be like, count the command centers. That's not what I'm saying. That's only early game up to 3 bases. What I am saying, though, is I want you to be like, have a ling here until you have creep here or some shit. Have a ling here. Have a ling here until you see his base come over there. Just know that he has a base or not. Because not knowing and then randomly going to attack random locations that are fogged out are just awful decisions. And again, I feel like an example happened here where you moved out here, you went for a fight, the Terran microed horribly, and you did some damage to him. But ultimately what happened was you turned around and went home, and you lost your 4th base. Because the drop came over there at the same time when you just chose to randomly move out of your base, and you lost a base because of it. So shit like that will happen to you all the time if you rush things. Overall, though, those are the things. Those are my final thoughts. You have a lot of potential. I do think you fall apart as the game goes on further, as the things we just talked about. But you do have a lot of potential, and yeah, man, I keep saying that more and more. But good shit early on in this game. For the first like 4 minutes, that was fucking really good. I was very impressed. And then it started falling apart little by little, more and more as time went on. But yeah, thank you very much again, Sapien, for buying another analysis. You're improving at a very good rate, and I think the rate at which you're improving is it's good. It's not something I would be like, dude, it's taking you a while. I think you're improving faster than the average person who learns, who gets taught, things like, gets coached or whatever. You're improving fast. Like you actually impressed me in the early part of this game. I was like, Jesus. Whoa, this guy is fucking on point right now. That's fucking, I did not expect to see that. That's good. So good shit, man. Keep it up. And if you guys like this thank you for watching. Consider following or whatever. You know, check out more of my videos. I have a lot of these on YouTube. And I will see you guys in the next one. Until then, take it easy. Bye, guys. See ya. Love you. Peace.